Welcome to a journey in soul discovery. I'm your host, Adriene Nicastro, bringing you practical tools, support, guidance, and exercises to help you find ways to navigate our complicated and challenging world with more love, joy, and peace. For more information, please visit me at www.pathways2innerpeace. Hi everyone, from wherever you're listening today. Today's episode is called We Are One, the Importance of Black Lives Matter. I don't know about you, but regardless of what side of this argument you stand on, these have been very challenging times. And if you're a person of color, they are most definitely the most oppressive and difficult times, and at the same time the most hopeful, because we are at the brink of making great strides forward. Strides that I hope will continue to grow and evolve as people understand what's before us in this dissolution of all systems. I want to start this podcast with the words of Buddha. It's from an excerpt called The Art of Forgiveness, Loving Kindness, and Peace, a book by Jack Kornfield. The words go like this. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. This is the ancient and eternal law. Like a caring mother holding and guarding the life of her only child, so with a boundless heart hold yourself and all beings. May I and all beings be filled with loving kindness. May I and all beings be safe from inner and outer dangers. May I and all beings be well in body and mind. May I and all beings be happy and free. I wrote this podcast in the wake of George Floyd's death, but since then other blacks have died, other people of color suffered, like Rayshard Brooks, who was shot in the back 3 times by police officers trying to escape from being arrested from a DUI. He was unarmed and yet shot with deadly force because he tried to flee the scene. You know, it is my hope that this civil unrest ends with a huge reform in our attitudes, in our treatment of people of color, and in the systems that are supposed to care and support us as citizens, regardless of who we are. As a parent of young adult men, it strikes a level of terror in my bones that someone could be shot with such deadly force for having been drunk. It's mind-boggling. And so in the wake of George Floyd's death, among many, many others, I watched yet another story on police brutality, and I began to contemplate the relationship between my spiritual teachings, the nature of suffering, turmoil in my own past, and the plight of people of color. What I have to say might anger you or confuse you. Maybe you'll disagree or believe that I've got it all wrong. Or perhaps you're sitting in a similar place. My hope is that it'll make you think. Consider what I have to say, the words and ideas. Formulate your own thoughts, and be willing to hear others and their opinions. At the very least, I hope that you'll take in the healing intent behind what I'm about to share. I welcome discussion, conversation, and new information. I'm here to learn too. So please respond, call me, write, text, email me, use the website, send telepathic messages. I'm open. There is a great inequity in the world that has been present for thousands of years. And now a similar monstrous unrest, one brewing for centuries, blankets the United States and the world in turmoil. The fights and protests may not be at your front door, but we are all part of them, and they are part of us on many levels. Spiritually, it affects us in this way. Connected by an invisible line of energy and a vast network, we are tethered to all of life, and I mean all of life. Every plant, rock, tree, bug, mammal, and yes, every human. And by the way, rocks are living too, believe it or not. We are indeed united by and with this creative force. Call it God, Great Spirit, Source, Intelligent Force, Buddha, etc. Doesn't really matter how you identify it. But in our union with it and by it, we cannot be separate from anything, especially that source, that creative force, the giver of all life. One purpose on earth is to become aware of our sacred connection to it, to feel it, and to ultimately live it. This recognition of Source within ourselves and all things is our journey home. The lifting of our consciousness into the most pure aspect of our being, while loving and accepting manifestations of life, of Source, in all its, his, her, its unique expression. We are a beautifully interwoven tapestry of energy, a symphony of uniqueness, yet one with all expressions of Source. Oneness and unity are our birthright, as well as our core existence. Remember, you are spirit living in earth life, spirit first and foremost. So how does separation occur? The movement away from unity and oneness? Separation occurs in our minds when we withdraw our love from another through an intent of harm. That harm could be mentally, emotionally, or physically toward any living entity. Intended harm may manifest in racism, judgment, antagonism, manipulation, physical attack, death. As such, our awareness of the love, beauty, and value of anyone or anything leaves our consciousness and we become shut off from it. While the very God self of each living thing knows only perfection, love, joy, and peace, when another suffers or remains blind to that core of the divinity within self or another, staying stuck in darkness, we all become affected by that shadow because we cannot go home alone. This is the nature of oneness. It's a package deal. Every fragment of turmoil in the world, in another, is simply a call for healing. And we have much healing to do as a member of the human race. For as long as inequity toward and or hate of ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and expression remain, we will be haunted by our ugly ghosts until the day no one is marginalized for who they are and all of life is treasured and respected. So if any aspect of your mind, of your most distant consciousness, can grasp a particle of the law of unity, I call on you to remember, to dive into your soul memory and excavate the spiritual truth that we are all affected and equally responsible for change, even if it's as seemingly small as the attitudes we carry moment by moment. And by the way, that's not small at all, but it may seem small to many. I've looked into my own heart and mind to understand what is happening in our world, which drew me to the past. I grew up in a white family with Jewish heritage. As such, epigenetically and energetically, I have carried the result of that history, like we all do. In addition, the poverty of our family in my early childhood was palpable. For example, my mother didn't have an indoor toilet in her house, which was my house too, because we stayed with our grandparents, my grandparents, her parents. That didn't come until she was nearly an adult. That reality made an indelible mark on her psyche, tainting many, many situations that in turn affected my childhood and how she raised me. A family of miners, farmers, and immigrants. My parents were the first of their generation to attend beyond primary school, as well as college or any professional education. Despite my parents' experience in higher learning, they were covertly and many times overtly racist. Statements from me regarding the desire to date boys of color and hating my white skin were met with disdain and fear. Yet it took me years to shed the many attitudes I learned at home. Re-education, counseling, mentoring, and experience helped me release the old belief systems from my past. And thankfully, I had more opportunities for education and growth than my grandparents, who saw to that along with my parents. Suffering early on, though, didn't stop despite the opportunity for higher learning. The higher learning that my parents had. Alcoholism, child abuse, and molestation were all part of a family legacy. A legacy that I personally carried on many levels. Through this pain, though, I learned to help others, eventually getting the training to carry forward early opportunities into ones that I would create for myself. So yes, I know suffering, and it's helped me come to the place where I am now, regardless of how difficult the journey. Why am I sharing this? Because I want to explain how I understand white privilege. And yes, I certainly welcome more schooling on the topic. While my struggles and healing in life were real to me, I could hide them from the world. Put on some nice clothes, a smile, and poof, pain invisible. It could hide on the inside, tucked behind my heart in a giant ball. Yes, it was still with me. Yes, I had a long road of recovery, but I could keep that recovery and any remaining difficulties to myself if I chose. And here is the line of demarcation. I could keep it to myself if I let the outside of me rest in appearances. This includes my race, a Caucasian female with blonde hair and blue eyes. White privilege spoke, a privilege I've long taken for granted. People of color do not have this advantage because of the history with separation, segregation, racism. While a person of color can change their clothes, the very skin that they wear calls to the pain and beckons to even more through continued racism, inequality, police brutality, and more that I lack the experience to articulate. So yes, I know pain. I know mistreatment and abuse, being invisible and unheard, but I don't know what it's like to be in a brown covering, exposed to a hostile, hurtful world. I don't have to worry about my children going to the movies, football games, or out on the road because they're black. I don't know what it's like to be a person of color. So how do I believe I can help even a little? I can use the old hurt that I've healed to reach into it and draw upon every ounce of compassion and understanding related to abuse and abandonment, to tap into what it might possibly feel like to be in the shoes of a person of color. I can use those challenges to cultivate compassion, understanding, and support, to help soothe suffering, to listen, to be open to learn. I can advocate for lasting change, to help eradicate racism, and at least stop the accumulation of new struggles to add to a long list of old prejudices and abuse. I can educate my children. I can refuse to tolerate racism, bigotry, and marginalization of others in all conversations, regardless of how uncomfortable that might be for the person that I'm speaking to, or even myself. I've witnessed some people who take offense to the Black Lives Matter movement. It's visible on social media, in my community, even among my friends. The Black Lives Matter plight is offensive to others from what I've been told because they think it diminishes their personal, cultural, or family suffering. Reality, the pain of a person of color doesn't diminish any pain that we carry or deny it. It's not Black Lives Matter because we don't matter. It's Black Lives Matter because people of color are suffering in ways those of us with white privilege have not. Persons of color have suffered for hundreds of years and continue to suffer, and this world has turned many a blind eye. Another reality, an important spiritual one, is this. I have had many people on this side of the veil and the other helping me through healing. We all do. I grew in love and faith and worked hard to transform pain into a gift, a divine offering that I would use to help others. Those that stood beside me physically and in spirit saw the truth of who I am. They witnessed the beauty, the love, and the wisdom in me that is eternal, and helped me realize it myself. Everyone has help across the veil, whether we know it or not. That said, those of us who have accessed that help, we know how to cultivate it and can offer it to others. So I continue to pay it forward to be what I learned. I stand beside those who are marginalized, mistreated, and dishonored to recognize their beauty, love, truth, and value, to see the God in them. I use my healing to rise up out of the confines of any limiting beliefs about suffering and struggle, to identify and release any remaining negativity, especially in my own thinking. Most importantly, I stand by all our brothers and sisters. Yes, all of them. That means all human beings regardless of race or position, to say, I know that there is love in you. I know that there is truth in you. I know that there is value in you just for being you. If you are struggling with fear and hatred, let me help you. I see your pain, and I stay by you to help you bear it. And if you are fearful, enacting pain and suffering on another, I don't agree with your choices or your behavior. In fact, I implore you to stop. I call on the vibration of love in you to change your mind and heart, while I lift you up in love into your highest knowing, into the hidden parts that call to your sacredness. As many times as necessary, I consciously choose to go beyond physical sight into spiritual vision and to call forth the beauty, peace, joy, justice, and love in you to do the right thing, to treat everyone with compassion and respect, to release fear of people of color, to allow your past to be transformed, to witness the good in people, to stop your hatred of speaking out, hatred of protests, your scorn of unity, to use your power to make positive, lasting change. As long as one of us suffers, we all do. We must stand together to end all violence and hatred. We are all one. I believe in peaceful protest, speaking our truth, major changes in legislation, and in holding those acting in violence and hatred with an attitude of responsibility, not retribution. We will never change the world if we enact the same attitude of punishment and hatred on those now hating. As Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. I call you to join me and live the energy of unity. Send love in your own way. Here's a list of ideas of things that you can do. Donate to causes that support Black Lives Matter. There's a post that will be listed in the episode description that you can click for more information. Volunteer in your community. Run a meditation group focused on unity and diversity. Join me for live online meditations to send healing into the world. Teach your children to be loving, inclusive, and to understand race relations. Energetically and outwardly support change for the good of all humanity. Demand changes in law enforcement for fair and just treatment, a zero tolerance of police brutality, and the end of racial profiling in all the ways it manifests. Be aware of any anger and pain that you carry in your heart. To resolve it so that you can stop any judgments toward others or yourself. Stop racism by refusing to tolerate it in all of your personal interactions, via jokes, slights, and negative or fearful attitudes. Change lies with every single one of us. I close with a saying by Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I hope you found this podcast helpful. I offer you my love, my blessings, and ask that you personally reflect on your own attitudes about what's happening now, to cultivate a sense of compassion and understanding, to carry forward the attitude of unity. Many blessings. That concludes today's podcast from A Journey in Soul Discovery. I hope you found what you're looking for. For more information, for more episodes and podcasts to help you in your journey, please check out all that's offered through this station. And if you're looking for sessions, more guidance and opportunities for growth and understanding, for healing and energy work, please contact me through the website linked in my bio. I appreciate your likes, your follows, and any comments that you'd like to share about how you found this podcast helpful, what you would like to see in future episodes, or any kind of criticism to help me provide more information in a better format for you. As always, be blessed.